This edition of Mac Voices is sponsored by Lynda.com, the unparalleled online video training library. For a free 10-day unlimited trial, visit lynda.com/macvoices. And by TunnelBear, the really simple app to privately browse and get around block websites. To find out more and download your own TunnelBear, visit tunnelbear.com/macvoices. Welcome to Mac Voices. This is the Talk to the Mac community. I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, this is the first of a series of shows I hope to do with some friends of mine to talk about their power tools, the things that they find essential to do whatever it is that they do. There are very few guidelines here, except that we want to try to avoid just ripping off a list of things that they like or that I like or anybody likes, because that really doesn't help you. I think it's much more interesting to sort of limit them to a few and then get them to tell us why. And I couldn't think of anybody better to start with than Allison Sheridan, for lots of reasons, not the least of which she's gone through a life transition, moving from retirement working world into retirement. And so I figured this might be good because she's obviously had to reassess some of the things that she's using. So, Allison Sheridan, it's great to see you. Thanks for being here.
Nice to see you, Chuck.
Yeah, this is fantastic. I'm so glad that you agreed to do it because I'm really interested. You seem to have your fingers in so many things, Allison.
Yeah, I was joking around this week. I'm on 5 podcasts. I'm thinking we should call a Mac Roundtable to make it 6 this week. What do you think?
If you can get it together, go for it. Go for it. Before we dig in, obviously, let's talk about where folks can find you and what you do in the Apple Mac space.
What? Plug my show? I would hate to do that, Chuck.
I knew you would.
Oh, darn. Okay. I do the NosillaCast Mac podcast. My tagline is a technology geek podcast with an ever so slight Macintosh bias. In other words, a giant Mac bias. I talk about Mac and iOS stuff, but I also talk about microphones, recording, cameras, security, and accessibility, whatever fun, geeky thing that comes along. I did name my show kind of vaguely so nobody could say I was off topic. The word Mac isn't actually in it all the time, so you never know what I'm going to be talking about. But it's a weekly podcast, been on over 10 years, not like these little newcomers like Chuck. Aren't you cute? And the show is audio only, comes out every Sunday night around 6 or 7 o'clock on Sunday nights in California. And I do the show live on Sunday nights. It's the only video portion. I do it on, basically it shows up on a YouTube live channel through Google Hangouts, and that's at podfeed.com/live.
Great.
And I'm also on the Mac Roundtable. I'm a writer and a guest screencaster for Don McAllister's ScreenCasts Online. I'm on the Daily Tech News Show. I'm on Clockwise. Anyway.
Yeah, I think I may have to buy bigger software to accommodate your bio.
And I cut that thing down for you.
Yeah. Oh, my. No, so suffice it to say that you are very busy doing this stuff. I don't know how you ever had a time to work at anything. So seriously, though, I know you went through the transition of the working world to a retired world, which gives you a lot more free time. And, of course, that fills right up very quickly. Have you had to make changes to your power tools list, do you think?
Well, actually, my work life, sadly, had converted over to Windows in the last few years I was working. I was one of the last holdouts still using a Mac in a large aerospace company, but they finally came for me, and I had to give in, and I had to use Windows 7, which, by the way, I can't tell you how many times you would have heard me yelling out at my computer, people choose this stuff? Because I truly, truly do detest Windows. I really do. So it wasn't a big difference for me because it was always Mac at home. It was always Windows at work. And one of the things to know about retirement is that one of the things you want to learn to do is become inefficient as quickly as possible. So I get up in the morning and I drink coffee from 7 to 8, and then I go to the gym and I come back and it's pretty much time for coffee. Steve and I do this every day. And then by the time we're done drinking coffee the second time, it's pretty much time for lunch. And so I don't start doing anything till like 1:30. So you don't want to pull a muscle, starting too early in the day.
Yeah, but for you, then it's like a drag race. The Christmas tree goes down, the green light hits, and you're just off like a shot. I'm sure.
Yeah, there is that.
Yeah.
There is that.
Yeah.
I do seem to get a few things done.
Yeah. Well, you heard me do the intro, of course, and one thing I did, I think think I neglected to say is, this can be hardware, it can be software, it can be anything that you find essential. So
now you tell me. I only did software on my list. I'll think up some.
Well, that's okay. That's okay. The whole idea is what helps you get done what you need or want to get done.
Yeah, so I do my entire production of my show from a 15-inch MacBook Pro. I've upgraded to the latest and greatest fairly recently. But surprisingly, everything I could do, I tested and was able to do on a 2011 MacBook Air. So unless you think you need to spend a lot of money to do this kind of show, you really don't. It's more fun to have a bigger disk and faster hardware and that sort of thing. But it's really not a full requirement. The biggest, most important tool I use, which I use in an odd way, it's a tool called Feeder. And it's a tool that helps you create your RSS feed. And if you don't do your own show, you might not know this, but the entire concept of podcasting is an RSS feed with an attachment. In the case of Chuck shows, it's video. In the case of mine, it's an audio file. And I use Feeder to create that feed, but I also use it as my text editor because it's a fabulous text editor. It's from reinventedsoftware.com, and it's just really easy to throw in links and throw in images and not have to type all the HTML by yourself. I use a combination of that and text expander snippets to write the show notes. So I do all my blogging through Feeder, but it's kind of a copy and paste. I could probably shove it over automatically, but I'm kind of old school, like to see how it works. So that's probably the number one thing I do for getting ready for the show.
Okay. Now you may have just taught me something. First of all, you just said that you do all your blogging through Feeder. So you use that to post to your website, or is that just for the RSS feed?
I use it to post for the RSS feed, but I could use it to post the blog as well. It's come a long ways. It's sort of like once you learn how to do something, you tend to do it the same way and not disrupt it. So like I said, I started a decade ago, longer ago than you. And so I haven't gone back and said, okay, if I were to start over, how would I go ahead and do it? So it's been the way I do it now, but I've started thinking, like, it can upload the images for you for a blog post. I do those by hand. I use, what's it called? Transmit from Panic Software to do my FTP of my images up and my audio files up, which, again, I could do right through Feeder. I keep saying I'm going to sit around and actually learn the whole tool, but I haven't.
Well, what I find really interesting about this, and this probably will be of interest to the podcasters only, but so because I use Feeder as well, you like to create your feed through that as opposed to some of the automatic things that you can implement, that you kind of throw the post in, you throw the file at it, and it creates the RSS feed, but you can never really go in and edit that RSS feed if you need to.
Yeah, I kind of like to be in control of my own RSS feed. I'm a big believer in that. It's fine to put your audio files or your video files someplace else, but you really should control that file because that file is the identity by which everybody finds you. So if somebody screwed that up and you couldn't get it back, there'd be no MacVoices. We'd never be able to find you. You'd be talking in the woods alone.
Yeah.
With no nerds to hear.
And actually, I had that situation once because I was using another tool previous, and for some reason, it started corrupting the RSS feed, and I had a devil of a time getting it back. And I like the idea of the dynamic feed, but not being able to control it. Yeah, you're right. It's so much nicer to be able to go in there and edit it and post it yourself. And
to understand it, I think, is important.
Yeah.
The second big tool that I'm really, really hot on right now is Audio Hijack. So I don't use a mixer. I had a mixer. The most wonderful Victor Cahiao helped me pick one out, and Steve bought it for me for Christmas, and he helped me set it up, and we had probably 5 or 6 hours of sessions where he'd tell me what to do, fiddling all the dials. And then one day I got a hiss on the line. And I could never figure out where it was coming from. I replaced cables. I replaced everything in that thing. I couldn't figure it out. So I switched over. I'm using a Heil PR40 microphone, but I have it plugged into a Shure X2U microphone interface. So it takes the XLR input from the microphone to a USB into my Mac. It completely simplified things. There's nothing on my desk as a result. This is just hanging in the Heil PR40's boom mount. And the combination of that with Audio Hijack that also pipes into a thing called Soundflower, I'm able to pipe audio from all different sources and create my show. And I get compliments on my audio for some reason. So I'm not sure why anybody wants a mixer. Except you're a geek and you like the toys, right?
Well, yeah, we all have that affliction, I'm afraid. Okay, so the audio hijack is your recording and editing utility. Well, recording utility. You may edit in something else.
Right. So like right now, yeah, you definitely don't edit an audio hijack. Right now, it's taking my microphone as an input. It's running it through a 10-band equalizer and then an audio dynamics processor. I've got a recorder that I'm not running right now, but I normally would. And then the output goes to this other tool called Soundflower. And Soundflower is my input into Skype, which is how you're hearing me. I have much more complicated ones for when I'm doing my live show. And I've got a great diagram, if you want to link to it, that's hilarious, that shows you all the different crazy pieces that I'm juggling to send my live show to, because I have to send it to the Hangout on Air so people can hear me on video and see me on video. I have it sent to a tool called Nicecast that runs the audio to an Icecast server, which is what pipes the audio into my app, into the NoCellicast app that we have for the live show, and it pipes it over to another server at Alpha Geek Media. So if you're on Alpha Geek Media's web servers or servers and software, you can hear my show there. You can watch me on video on Roku. I mean, it's just got a whole bunch of little different connected parts, and the core of that is actually audio hijack. So that's a pretty important tool to me.
Again, something very interesting for the podcasters out there. So you're running this through Audio Hijack before it gets to Skype.
Yes.
Right now, because I'm not seeing any delay or hearing any delay, and that's something that, you know, if anytime you put something in between, you have to worry about that.
Yeah, now the X2U interface to my microphone has a monitor for my headphones. So that is one problem that does exist in Audio Hijack. If you don't have that, you can have a delay in hearing your own voice, which makes you slow down when you're talking.
Yes.
So that's a critical piece, is that microphone interface allowing me to do the monitoring on my own. But yeah, the audio, the coolest thing I ever did with Audio Hijack, I know you've had Shelley Brisbane on the show a bunch of times. She and I did a talk about VoiceOver, and which is the accessibility tool for iOS. And we had both of our phones running VoiceOver, and we were able to pipe both phones and both of our voices into the Skype call so that I could record it. And that was crazy. I saved the setup for that and made a post about it because it was nuts how many different things we had to juggle to get that to work. But it's Audio Hijack is just so much fun to experiment with and test. It was really, really fun to do that.
The first two things you named had to do with the show, and that's great. I'm just a little surprised that, you know, do you consider that your primary thing right now?
The show?
Yeah.
Primary thing that I do in life, or
well, yeah, pretty much. I mean, because this was open season on, you know, whatever it is that you do. So, do you feel? Yeah, I guess. Do you feel like this is your primary thing now?
Oh, yeah. I mean, for fun, I'm really into Apple's Photos, believe it or not. I do have a 50,000 plus photos library, and I've got it in iCloud Photo Library, syncing up and down to all my devices, which is magical and wonderful. And I've been having a lot of fun with that. I do like photography a lot. I'm not a photographer, but I enjoy dabbling in it and buying all the toys, because that's really what it's all about.
Yeah. It just struck me. I realized that we kind of just dug right into the show work as opposed to in general. So I don't want to take you off track on your list.
Yeah. Well, I do want to make sure I haven't actually said how I record my show. It's all with the old GarageBand. So not the new GarageBand, the one that doesn't support podcasting, but I record in GarageBand in the old one, and it works just fine.
Does that scare you that we're headed toward El Capitan and there may be compatibility issues?
A little bit. It's a little queasy. Haven't really looked into what else. This is kind of funny because asking about the show, because my hobby was the show before, and when I retired, it just seemed like an excuse to do more shows, to do more things. I've started screencasting for Don McAllister's Screencasts Online. So the big tool there is ScreenFlow for making video screencasts, and that is a really, really fun tool. Just a spectacular tool for creating videos, and I use it on the side a lot when I'm trying to show somebody a problem with their software. I'll just do a little video of it and say, okay, watch. I click here, and then, there it blew up. 99% of the time they go, oh, I didn't think anybody would click there, or or you moron, this is what you should have been doing instead.
I love to talk to you about this stuff because, first of all, you're very enthusiastic, but you keep using a word that I associate with pretty much everything I do too, and that's fun. Once in a while, there's something that is a little bit of drudgery, but for the most part, I actually enjoy using all the tools that I use to produce the show and to do, things I do for my office, my day job, my office job. And that just is something that I don't think a lot of people do. They don't have fun with this stuff.
Well, I think the best illustration of what you're talking about is Steve's father. He had a PC at home for 8 years, and it was running Windows 98, I think. And he's a very serious man. He was an insurance guy, you know how those people are, and he was in investment bonds. I mean, just as dull of a topic as you could ever hope to think about. And he finally one day he calls me up and he says, "Allison, I'm ready to switch to the Mac. Walter Mossberg says this Vista thing is terrible, and if I got to learn something all new, I might as well learn the Mac. Like, get me a Mac." And so I bought him an iMac for he and his wife, for Steve's parents. And 2 months later, he writes me an email. He says, "So I was playing around on my Mac." And it doesn't even matter what the rest of the sentence was, right? I was playing around on my Mac. The word play and computer had never been connected before in his world. And I think it's that joy that's hard to describe and explain if you haven't actually, had any experience with it. So it's a little hard to tell how to define that, but it is play. And that was the difference. I mean, work. I worked on, there's a terrible screencasting application for Windows that there isn't a piece of software I've hated more than that piece of software. Every minute of doing a screencast at work was just torture with this stuff. And then I'd come home and I'd go, ScreenFlow on my Mac, it's all wonderful. And like the birds would start singing and the flowers would bloom and it was color instead of black and white. So it really is about play, definitely.
Yeah, I'm not sure I can agree with play because I still get a lot of work done, and I associate play with a little more frivolity. But I just enjoy. I mean, right now I'm working on a keynote presentation for the office. I look forward to sitting down and working with Keynote. If I was doing it with something else, not so much. And I'm not, which program I'm talking about. But Keynote is okay. Let's see what I can do that's interesting here, and let's see how fast I can get through it. And it turns into fun for me. I'm not sure it's play, but it's definitely fun.
Okay, I get the distinction. Play and fun are two different things. You can have fun working, but that doesn't make it play.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
I guess the other thing I do a lot of, if we want to talk about playing, and I don't consider them power tools, is I spend a lot of time on Twitter and Facebook. I don't know why I'm starting to like Facebook, but having a lot of fun on Facebook and Google+. I am just crazy about Google+. I have a community for my podcast, podfeet.com/Google+, little plug there. And it's fantastic. We have so much fun in there. There's more than 500 people in there. And it's essentially like the old time message boards. You can go in and post a question and somebody's going to answer you. You're going to get help. You're going to get somebody posting links or, hey, have you looked into this? Have you tried that? And a lot of times people will write emails to me asking for help. And I'll say, I don't know, go ask Google+, ask the community because there's smarter people in there than me. So that's really, really fun that the community is pulled together.
Now, see, that's a place where I think the play and the fun may cross over. Is any of the social networks, whichever one you like, whatever suits you. Because I'm not a big fan of Facebook. Google Plus is somewhere in the middle. I kind of like it, but Twitter is where I prefer. So,
yeah.
but whatever it is, I mean, you can turn that into a tool, or you can make it completely about play and fun and just completely innocuous stuff if you want. It just depends on how you set it up.
Yeah, and I think from a tool perspective, which we were trying to talk about, I'm a big fan of Tweetbot because I really like lists. So I have a list for the Mac Roundtable, so I can see what you jokers are up to during the week. I've got another one for my family. I've got one that I call interesting. So I follow 400 or 500 people, but I'm not gonna actually read all that, right? But I want to make sure I see the interesting people. You didn't make that list, Chuck. You're over on the Mac Roundtable list, but that's okay. I check that one too.
Okay,
but. But it's a really fun tool. But that's another case where I'm really worried with the way Twitter is starting to deprecate those tools and not allowing them to have the newest functionality. That's really depressing to me. That's an unfortunate side effect of the business ventures they're doing.
Today's edition of MacVoices is sponsored by Lynda.com, the unparalleled online video training library. Get a full free 10-day trial at lynda.com/MacVoices. Lynda.com is the best place to go to learn something new. They have over 3,500 and counting video courses on plenty of topics. For one membership fee, they offer access to all those courses, not just a limited subset or this tier or that. Everything. And their instructors aren't just someone in their basement who's doing his first video. All are professionals in their field who record in professional studios at lynda.com with professional gear. Their videos are professionally produced and look great and communicate exactly what is being taught. The key word here is professional, because you deserve the best. And you don't need to be tied to your computer to experience lynda.com courses. With the Lynda.com app, you can load up courses to watch on the go on your iPhone, iPad, or other mobile device, with or without internet connectivity. That way, you get to watch and learn when it suits you, where it suits you. It also means that you can take better advantage of the files that instructors provide for their courses. You can work through the same examples the experts are working with to be sure you're getting the same results. That's even easier when watching on your iPad and working on your computer. Not required, of course, but a nice touch, especially for things like Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop. Not sure where to start? Lynda.com has playlists of courses to help you get the most out of their training on any given subject. Or you can make your own. Add courses to your personal playlist as you explore Lynda.com, or make a playlist of the courses you've just taken for easy reference later. There are lots of ways you can use playlists, just like you do in iTunes. And of course, the breadth and depth of the Lynda.com library. From animation and audio to presentations and photography, Lynda has something for everyone. Something you're interested in. Something that will help you learn a topic you want to know about for yourself or need to know about for your career. Right now, you can get a full unlimited free trial of all that and much more by visiting lynda.com/MacVoices and signing up. No obligation, no restrictions. Watch as much as you want on any topic you want. Watch a course several times, or a whole lot of courses once. Your choice. I want you to go to lynda.com/MacVoices right now, sign up, and let me know what you think of lynda.com's selection, convenience, and the quality of the training. Actually, I already know what you'll think, but I'd love to hear you say it anyway. lynda.com/MacVoices to access over 3,500 courses that will help you learn what you want to learn. Thanks to lynda.com for their support of MacVoices. I realize we're kind of all over the tools thing, but you bring up an interesting point. Do you find that you use a lot of new features as they roll out, or is it just one of those things that you just can't wait to get your hands on? And I don't mean just TweetBot or anything. I just mean in general that, a new release comes out and you want to know what all the new features are, or do you kind of do a quick scan over them and say, not relevant for me this time around, maybe next time? And
just about Twitter only, or
no, just anything
across the board?
Just across the board.
Well, because it is very different. Across the board, yes, I have to have the newest thing immediately, even if it's going to break all my production. I've gotten better about not upgrading my desktop OS the first day. Might wait like 4 or 5 days or something, but I've got another laptop that I'll test it out on, and that'll probably carry me over. But everything else, I love nothing more than a brand new piece of software, especially if they move all the menus around and change everything. That's just fantastic. That's huge joy to me. I got myself a subscription to Microsoft Office, the new, what do they call it, Office 365. And I was really excited going, okay, Office 2016, woohoo, it's going to be so different from 2011. And every menu was where it should have been. I knew where everything was. I just went, never mind. And I discontinued my subscription. Because what fun is it if I know how to use it and I know where all the buttons are? I mean, there's no point.
We're getting a look inside your head, and it's a scary place. It's a scary place.
That's what I think is fun, is you and I are such good friends, and yet I don't think we have anything in common other than the Mac.
Yeah, it's probably about the truth.
We both like Steve.
That's true. Yeah. And I want to get him back on the show, but I think he's afraid to come. So
he likes being behind the camera and away from the mic. So
yeah. Okay, so let's get back. I'm sorry I took us off, but there were so many things there. Yeah, back to the list.
Well, I guess we'd have to put Skype on the power user list, right? And that's an app where if I only got 5 apps, that would probably have to make the list, because so much of what I do is through Skype. I do an interview the second half of my show. The first half is me yapping about whatever excited me that week. And the second half is always an interview called Chit Chat Across the Pond. And in that half, if I didn't have Skype, I'm not quite sure what I'd do. I suppose I could hijack FaceTime if it was just, or, use a telephone or something. I don't know, but highly, highly dependent on Skype.
Yeah, yes. And Skype, I've said it on camera and off. Skype is a harsh mistress. When she loves you, she loves you. And when she doesn't, oof.
You should be nicer to her. I don't, knock on plywood here. I don't have trouble with Skype. When is the last time you had, video or audio breakup or a drop call on Skype?
Yesterday.
Oh,
you asked.
Like I said, you should be nicer. Now, are you sure it wasn't just because of the person's bandwidth or something?
No, because it was actually the last show we did. Victor and Adam Christensen and our videos all dropped out exactly at the same time. It wasn't anybody; it was everybody. So
interesting.
Interesting. I mean, to be fair about it, it is pretty darn stable, and obviously your show, my show, depend on it. But
and free,
and free. Although, if I could have my way, I'd pay for it and get certain features. Stable. But that's another thing. So
yeah, I don't know. I've just I remember it's probably been more than a year since I've had any problems with Skype. But I remember Bart and I having a weird problem where we spent a lot of time in the diagnostics because, of course, that was the geeky fun to figure out what was going. And I think my Skype connection was actually connecting to a server really far away instead of locally, that it got its panties in a bunch, as Bart would say. But we had me connect to the server in Ireland on purpose, and that somehow smoothed it all out because it was where he was. It was a very weird circumstance, but that's in 5 years, I think that's probably the only other time where it wasn't somebody else's bandwidth.
Hey, that's great. That's
Again,
great.
Knocking on wood. Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't say bad things about her behind her back, though, Chuck.
Oh, I don't say it behind her back. I say it
you just said you said it on and off the air.
well, on and off the air, but that doesn't mean I don't say it through Skype. So Skype people, if you're listening.
There you go.
Okay, so yes, Skype's an interesting choice, though, because that can apply to the show. It also can apply to maybe just keeping in touch with friends or family.
Sure. I've just started playing with a new chat client that I'm really excited about. Leo Laporte started complaining that he wants there to be one chat client to rule them all. Everybody drop all these other silly ones and let's all go to one. And so I decided to give it a try. It's called Telegram Messenger. It's from telegram.org, and it is really, really nice. The problem that it solves, because we got to start there, of course, is that it's got native clients for pretty much everything. It's got a native OS X client, Windows Phone client, Android, iOS, Apple Watch, and it's got a nice web client as well. And the speed of this thing, you can have it up on all your devices at all the time, and it's instantaneous. It's nothing like messages where, it comes to your watch, but not your phone, or it comes to your desktop, but not your watch. It doesn't have any of that. It is instant everywhere, and you can reply on your watch. It's beautiful. It's got stickers. It's got groups. It's got private messaging. It's really, really slick. I attacked you the minute you signed up yesterday, I think.
Yeah,
it's like, hey, Chuck. Hi, Chuck. How are you?
I didn't realize Leo was pushing it. I forget where I saw it, and I thought, okay, I'll check it out. The big question in my mind remains, since it is a proprietary system, since it's its system.
It's not proprietary. It's
not?
Open source.
Well,
it's open source.
Okay, but in other words, in order to message you, I have to use that, or. And that's what I meant by proprietary. It's not like...
Okay, so it's not web standards or
yes.
protocol. But those are pretty much slipping away, unfortunately. We used to be able to do Google Talk and iMessage and AOL Instant Messenger all through Adium, but now Google has left that. Whatever that protocol was, I forget what it was called. They've dropped it, so you can't really use that anymore. There is no one tool to talk to everybody. Other than text messages, but text messages, you have to know the person's phone number. And Telegram works with your phone number, but you can make up a username. So my username is NoSilicast, and you can simply talk to me by that name. And so I never have to give you my phone number. And that's kind of the big advantage of chat clients, right? You can tell someone, no, you're not allowed to talk to anymore. This also has a mute feature. So I'm a member of the SMR podcast Minions group, which is the chattiest group of people you have ever met in your life. You just hate them. You really would, because they're like, yep, all day long. I wanted to work out on the treadmill or on the elliptical this morning, and I wanted to watch a video podcast, and I brought it up on my watch, and I said mute for 1 hour. Boom, it's gone for the hour. I can say mute all day. I can say mute forever, mute until I come back. Those kind of features are really, really nice to be able to talk to everybody.
Yeah. It's again, it's going to be sort of like the Facebook situation where if that's where the people are, that's where you're going to go. Yep. And if it's a ghost town, then, no matter how good it is technically, you're probably not going to use it. So I guess it remains to be seen.
Well, and that's why I'm going, woohoo, everybody get on.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
That's where all the cool kids are.
So I should mention at this point, too, that everything Allison's talking about, I'll have links in the show notes so you can go and find it. And that will include Telegraph Messenger. Telegram Messenger. I had it right the first time.
Yeah. So it's telegram.org.
So, go join, look for Allison, sign up. And if you like
Don't look for Chuck.
Look for me if you want. Yeah, but I'm trying to help you, Allison.
You don't like people. We all know that.
I don't like people. What's next on the list?
Why don't you have me on the show very often, Chuck?
Yeah.
All right, here's a little one, but it's one that I really, really like. I searched forever for a tool to put a drop shadow on an image. And the reason I wanted it was on my website, it's a white background. I wanted the pictures to kind of stand out and not be flat on the screen. And it's a tool called Drop Shadow. It's in the Mac App Store. You drag an image onto it and you drag it back out, either as a PNG or a JPEG, and you can set how you like things. Do you want a border around it? How big do you want the offset? Once you set those, it's set it and forget it. So every time I upload an image, I take it, drag it in, drag it out, boom, it's done. It's really, really a slick little problem that solves one problem and solves it well.
All right. See, I got to follow up because I'm intrigued. If I have, let's just say, a 200 by 200 square image and I drag it in, do I get out 200 by 200 or do I get like maybe 205 by 205?
Because you get whatever your offset is. So like mine, I think is 216 by 216.
Okay. So it adds a little bit to accommodate the shadow.
Right.
Got it.
Right. Okay. It will go a little bit bigger. But it's just a slick, little, quick, easy tool that does that exact thing I wanted. I'd sit there trying to do it in Photoshop and stop me. It'd take a half an hour. This is, and you could set the quality of the JPEG too.
Yeah, that is nice.
It's pretty cool.
That is a nice tool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of a neat little tool. Okay. I don't think I could live without iStat menus from Bojangles software. iStat menus is, for anybody in the audience who hasn't heard of it, is a fantastic tool for monitoring things on your Mac. I just did a screencast for ScreenCasts Online going through all the capabilities. Even if you just use it to try to figure out what is chewing up my processors right now. I've got one of the new MacBooks, and I don't know why, but MDS, which is the Spotlight indexer, just will not stop running. And I'm actually going to have to call Apple because I can kill it. I can let it run all day for days at a time. It'll stop for a while, and then it'll kick up and use 90% of my processor. But the reason I know it is because I can see it in my menu bar. You can watch the temperatures of all different things on your Mac. You can look at your fan speeds. One of the ways I know that things are going funny on my Mac is if I see my fans going up. I don't have to do it so much more with the newer one. But in the old days, I was having a terrible problem where I just kept looking up going, I could hear my fans saying, they're at 6,000 RPM. What the heck? And that's how I knew to start going and digging and trying to figure out what else is wrong. But it does 100 other things, world clocks, cute little calendar. I like to have a little calendar icon that actually says the day and date, or says the date on it. That's one of the things I love. Fantastic little program. I'm sure you use that too.
Yes, definitely. I'm sorry. Everything here has been just a bit geeky, with the exception maybe of Drop Shadow. Is there anything that is not kind of geeky?
Were you hoping I was going to say Pinterest?
No,
I go on Pinterest and I get recipes.
No, not really. I guess I'm just surprised that maybe there aren't some things, not that these aren't mainstream, but that there's nothing a little more mainstream so far.
Well, you did ask about power tools. So my favorite power tools really are my power washer for my driveway and my chainsaw. Those are I got those for Mother's Day from Steve. Those are my favorite power tools, really. I'm not kidding, and you know it. Right?
I love that guy. I really do. You're the kind of person that takes things apart just for fun, aren't you?
Oh, you betcha. Well, I used to be afraid to. You asked about loading new software. I will instantly load new software. I will not hesitate whatsoever, no matter how important the tool is to me and how critical it is. I'm going to load it right away. But I used to be queasy about taking things apart, but I've just been on a tear doing that lately. Replacing hard drives with SSDs, replacing cables. I spent a bunch of time tearing down a MacBook Air of a friend of mine's. Her daughter poured water in it and it wrecked the keyboard. That is the only thing that actually vanquished me, because you can't actually fix the keyboard. You can replace the keyboard keyboard, but it's not financially viable in the Mac that she had. It doesn't increase the value to do it. So I didn't end up doing that. But taking other people's Macs apart and adding RAM and SSDs and stuff, it's really, really fun. I've gotten into it with my my handy dandy giant kit of tools from iFixit. So I do like taking stuff apart too.
Yeah, I knew it. I
took my power washer apart when I had a leak.
Oh, jeez. I'm
an engineer. What do you want me to do? I'm a mechanical engineer.
Yeah.
I was born this way.
Yeah, good point. Back to the list. I don't know how we got to the driveway, but back to the list.
You asked about power tools.
Okay.
Do you have a power washer? Seriously, this is one of the funnest tools there is.
Oh, I'm sure. But no, I don't. I just don't have enough stuff to power wash.
Really? You don't have a driveway? Walls that get moldy or anything? You get black and whoosh. It's really fun.
Well, we have rain here in Pennsylvania, Allison. So
well, that means you have mold too then.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, we don't have mold anymore. All right. I'll get back to tech tools. Probably the other thing on my list, and I like to think about what do I add first when I first get a Mac, and Text Expander has to be at the top of the list. I just can't stand the minute I start typing and it doesn't do anything. Every Mac has to get Text Expander on almost immediately. 1Password and Dropbox and Text Expander. Those are the first three. And have you ever noticed how 1Password and Dropbox are a Mobius strip? You got to load Dropbox right away in order to get to 1Password, but you can't get into 1Password because you don't know what your Dropbox password is.
Yes, I've had that experience.
If you've only got one device, you have to write your password down. That's your only choice. That's the only way to get into it and figure it out. So it is every time I do it, I go, oh, wait. Oh, no.
Well, fortunately, you have more than one device sitting around there, I would think.
Yeah. I'm trying to see if I can get a full continuum from the watch to the phone to the iPad to the Mac, MacBook to the MacBook Pro. I don't have an iPad Mini though, so I probably need one of those to smooth out the curve.
Yeah. Oh, and maybe soon an iPad Pro. Who knows?
Yeah, I can't see how with the 12-inch MacBook. In terms of new tools, though, I got to tell you, that 12-inch MacBook is the sweetest, most beautiful thing, if it would stop indexing, of course. It is just a beautiful, beautiful machine. I love it. I just adore it.
Okay.
The screen is gorgeous. I don't really notice the speed. The only time I notice the speed is that 52,000 iCloud or photo library. That kind of, you can kind of tell you're on that you're on a slower machine with that. But other than that, I can run 8 or 10 applications at the same time, and I don't get any slowdown. So, and I even did a test with ScreenFlow and ran some recordings, and while creating the recording, there was no pause, no problem whatsoever. Rendering took a lot longer than on a new i7 MacBook Pro, but other than that, it's a very, very nice little machine.
Since you brought it up, I'll ask about the USB-C port. What's been your experience with that? Good, bad, any?
It's fine. It's really fine because the battery lasts forever. So it's not. A lot of people are worried about, well, what if I need USB and I need to charge at the same time? What am I going to do? I said, well, you don't need to charge. I mean, you need to charge, but not that often. The fact that I can charge it from a portable charger, you can take one of these chargers that you got for your iPad or your iPhones, as long as it's beefy enough, you can actually charge this device portably, which you can't do on any other Mac they make. I do carry a dongle with me that has an SD card slot, 2 USB-A slots, and an Ethernet port on it, which I use mostly just for the SD card. And I also have in my purse at all times for emergencies, just a USB-C to USB-A dongle that is just this tiny little thing that doesn't weigh anything, sits in my purse. Haven't really had any trouble with it. Haven't found that to be a problem. I would, if I had to have one more thing in it, it would not be a USB-A slot. It would be an SD card slot because I put pictures on it all the time.
Did you see a single dongle with all those connectors? Is that what you said?
Yeah. Is it nearby? Don't know where my purse is.
That's okay.
It left.
That's okay.
Must be downstairs.
If you can send me a link to that one, because I haven't seen that one before.
Sure. It's ugly as sin. It's really dorky. It's really clunky. Third party ish looking. It's not pretty, but it gets the job done. Yeah. And I did try another one that just simply didn't work. None of the functions work, and I got my money back. But this one does the job. Okay. It's fine.
Good.
It's fine.
Okay.
Wait, it might be right here.
Allison is now leaning over and getting
all out of my chair. Yes, it is.
Yes.
It's my camera bag. That's where it is. So I don't even know what company this is from. It's so third party, but it's got, if you look on this side, it's got 2 USB ports there. It's got gigabit Ethernet on the end, and then SD and what is this, XD or micro SD or something like that. And for some reason, DC 5 volts. I don't know. Maybe I could do an external charger with that. I'm not quite sure what that's for. And then USB-C on the other end. It was, I don't know, $20, something like that.
Okay.
Oh, and the USB 3.0 hub also. So pretty nice. Like I said, it's kind of clunky looking, kind of ugly, kind of thick.
Yeah. Not having a USB-C device, I really haven't, I knew that was going to be an issue, but I haven't followed along to see how things have developed. But that certainly would take away about 90% of my hesitancy over going with a MacBook.
Yeah, I bought the MacBook after taking the 5.4-pound MacBook Pro to India for a month through 17 hotel changes in a month. Hence our discussion of Advil and Aleve and anti-inflammatories earlier today. I mean, it was brutal. It was brutal, but it worked great. It was a great device to have with me, but that was not a light device to take with me. That's for sure.
So is your MacBook Pro your powerhouse machine? Is that the main thing? Okay. And
it's almost like a desktop now. It's hooked up to my 27-inch cinema display, and that's where I do the podcast. That's what I'm talking to you from right now. It would be interesting to see if I could do what we're doing right now with that adapter on my MacBook, 12-inch MacBook. Oh, here's one thing you cannot do, and just to mess with Apple, I called them up and asked them about it. You can't hook the 27-inch cinema display to it because there's no connector.
Oh,
because it's got the 3-way dongle thing, right? It's got DisplayPort, and as of the last time I checked, there was no way to go from USB-C to DisplayPort. And so I called up Apple just to mess with them, but the woman's like, "Well, we sell an adapter." I said, "No, you don't. Show it to me. Find it." Bet you don't. Bet you don't. It's just when you're retired, you can just call people up to irritate them. It's really fun.
You're on a call list somewhere. Probably on many call lists somewhere.
Probably.
Okay.
Well, actually, I will give you a tip that has nothing to do with the subject. The tip is called Nomo Robo. I don't know about you, but we get robocalls like there's no tomorrow. Our landline is a useless piece of equipment now. Nomo Robo is a service that you register your phone number with, and they have a blacklist. And anytime your phone gets a call from that a number on the blacklist, your phone rings, but so does theirs, and then theirs stops it. So it's cool because it's working because you hear phone calls ring once. And it's better than if it didn't ring at all, because every time you're like, yes, got another one. You didn't get through to me. They do have it's free to you, but they sell the blacklist to the phone companies. So they do have if you think follow the money, they do have a business plan, a business model where they do make money. You can also tell them numbers to stop. And it is just, it was night and day. If you're home all day, it's crazy how many times your phone is ringing. If you're at work all day, you have no idea how many times your phone's ringing. It's 8 or 10 a day. It's really irritating.
Yeah.
So nomorobo.com.
Good. And they never leave messages, so you're right. But you take 3 steps toward the phone, and then it stops, and curse a few times, and then it happens again 10 minutes later.
Exactly. So now we just sit there and we go, yay. It's so happy making. It's a really, really wonderful service. Had nothing to do with what you said, but it does make me happy.
This edition of MacVoices is sponsored by TunnelBear, the really simple app to privately browse and get around block websites. To find out more and download your own TunnelBear, visit tunnelbear.com/MacVoices. I'm happy to welcome TunnelBear as a sponsor of MacVoices. TunnelBear is a simple, attractive app that addresses one of those issues we all face as denizens of the 21st century: web surfing security. TunnelBear is an easy-to-use VPN with over 5 million users. What makes TunnelBear so great is that it's simple. With just a click to turn it on and turn it off, you can browse the internet in complete privacy, get around censorship, and unblock websites. So what's a VPN, I hear you ask? That's geek speak for a virtual private network. What it means is that what you send and what you receive is encrypted, so it can't be seen by governments, ISPs, or anyone else, especially the bad guys. Most VPNs can be a challenge to set up and maintain. I've seen tutorials out there for the roll your own VPNs that promise in 14 steps your VPN might work. Right, 14 steps. With TunnelBear, you just install, click, and you're protected on public Wi-Fi or while traveling. And TunnelBear has apps for your Mac, your iPhone, your iPad, and even a Chrome browser extension. So one solution addresses all your web surfing privacy concerns. TunnelBear is affordable too, with a free option to get you started, and several tiers that will address how much secure web surfing you need. And in today's world, you need a lot. Find out just how easy web surfing security can be by visiting tunnelbear.com/MacVoices and downloading your very own TunnelBear right now. You'll be amazed at how simple and easy security can be. That's tunnelbear.com/MacVoices to try TunnelBear free and make your web surfing more secure. Welcome, and thanks to TunnelBear as a sponsor of MacVoices. Well, those are the kind of things, though, that, they help a lot, and they are important things.
It reminds me of when I gave a talk at a user group in Orange County, and I was really excited about this powder that I got that helps with hard water deposits in your dishwasher, and so I did this. I just happened to mention it just because I'm goofy and I say things like that, like chainsaws, and I happened to mention it when I was done with the talk. Everybody flocked up to talk to me, and I was so excited. All they wanted to know was what was the name of that thing. So I might as well tell you, it's called Lemmy Shine, by the way. It's
Lemmy Shine, okay.
Yeah, it's a miracle. It's a miracle. Okay. Why is it you don't have me on the show very often, Chuck? I
have no idea. I have no idea. Anytime we get together, this is the way it goes. It's just we sort of turn each other loose.
There you go. There you go. And I've been pretty nice to you today.
You have. For the most part.
Here and there.
I have no idea how many. I have no idea where in the list we are. How far down are we? Do you know?
I'm pretty much through the main drag there. Those are probably the big hitters that I just can't live without.
Okay. Well, that's a pretty good list. I mean, and we obviously went off tangent or on tangents for a while, but that's a pretty good list. It is. I don't know why. It's just a little geekier though than I would have thought. What's
a non-geeky app? Or a non-geeky power tool?
You brought up Microsoft Office 365, which, that I don't think of that as terribly geeky, but then you said you canceled it, so that kind of shot that.
Well, you get a geek on the show, I guess.
Keynote, numbers, pages, any of those?
So if I'm going to write text, it's pretty much in Feeder. So I don't use any of the word processing type apps. I'll use Pages from time to time, but I don't care. They're all the same to me. They don't make any difference to me. If I'm going to do a presentation, I am definitely more Keynote than PowerPoint but I believe presentation programs in general should be put to death. I just hate them. I hate the whole idea of bullets driving our talks. One of my favorite stories to tell at work, my boss was going to be unable to make a presentation where each of the directors was going to be talking for 6 minutes about their organization. And she asked me about what they'd accomplished for the year. So, it was for a Christmas party. It wasn't even that big of a deal. And she didn't want to fly out just for that. And she said, would you do it? And I said, sure, not a problem. And they called me up, the comms people called me and wanted my charts for 6 minutes. Charts. I said, I wasn't going to do chart. What do you mean? And I thought the guy burst into tears. I thought he thought he was going to get fired if he didn't get me to give him a chart. So I think I put one word on it or something and sent him a chart or maybe a sentence. But there's been some movement in the United States government, in the armed forces, to actually ban the use of PowerPoint for that reason, because we're getting into this mode where we can't think unless we have those charts. And what I found at work was I would spend so much time formatting if I tried to create my charts while in PowerPoint. So just a little tip, if you have to use a tool like PowerPoint or Keynote, do it on scratch paper first. Just think by yourself because as soon as you start typing, you're going to go, well, I bet a different font would look better. Or should I indent that or not? Or, you just spend all your time fooling around. You're not really thinking. So I really encourage people to draw it out by hand, sketch it out, just think and rearrange things by hand. I started doing a presentation for a user group recently on passwords, and I was probably 5 pages in when I almost fell asleep looking at it because it was so boring, because it was just blah, 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 blah. It was all these stupid bullets. And so I got rid of all of the text and I just put pictures up. So like one of my things was you should really start, the point of my story was to use a password manager. And I put a picture of a little boy crying and I stood up there and I said, it's too hard, which was what I was going to say in 5 sentences instead, right? I put in these great graphics. Now my charts are useless to anybody who didn't hear the talk. They aren't a documentation of what I said. So there's that as a downside. But, I'll put a couple of links in, but the rest of it, I just try to make it pictures now. And I think I get a better audience reception that way. And I don't fall asleep either.
Do you think, I think I agree with you. And I think that social media is driving a little bit of this. We all know that the posts that have pictures, pretty pictures of some kind or another, or really any picture, get more views and get paid attention to more. And I'd like to think that in some corners, God knows, I'll tell a story in a second, but in some corners, we are getting away from a lot of the text on slides and going for more graphical elements. And so it's not quite as mind-numbing. Now, that means that somebody has to be driving this that knows what they're doing. Because I personally, I have a little contest each year. All the meetings I go to, I try to figure out what was the worst presentation I saw. And it's amazing because like at least once or twice a month, I come home with a new contender. It's just and I mean the basic rules of font size, of how much stuff you put on a slide. It just makes me crazy, and
yeah. I read Carmine Gallo's book, Presentation Secrets of Steve Jobs, and I don't do 90% of it like practice ahead of time. I just don't believe in that. I just wing everything. But he talked in particular, what really struck me was when Steve Jobs talked about the anniversary of the Mac, all he did was put up a birthday cake. Right. And I still remember that birthday cake. And when he brought it up in the book, I was like, yeah, that was very compelling. A word chart wouldn't have done anything at all. And so trying to get away, try to do a presentation with all pictures. You won't make it. But if you start there, you're going to end up with more compelling content. And I do spend a lot of time making sure that I'm using content that's Creative Commons, is allowed for reuse and I'm not stealing anybody's imagery. And so that does take a lot longer to find a good picture that's not something that somebody's copyrighted, which is almost everything. So you do have to do some more due diligence to not misbehave there.
Right. Or just go to any of the stock photography sites and buy it. And that way you're absolutely sure.
Yeah.
And there's, some of those can be a little expensive, but there are also a few sites out there. Dollar Photo Club is great. That's one where things are a lot cheaper. So go in that way, then you're absolutely covered because you got all your graphics there, and this is what you paid for them, and you got the license, and you don't have to worry.
What was the name of that one?
Please don't hold me to it, but I think it's Dollar Photo Club. If not, I'll put it in the show notes to be sure.
I'd like a cruddier site, that maybe the imagery isn't that good, but it's cheap. Because a lot of these, I look at it, it's like $20. It's like I'm not going to pay $20 for one chart on a user group slide that I'm giving away. That's a little much.
You have to pay attention because I think we all have this inclination of, I'll go and buy the largest one or the one with the most resolution, and then I'll have it just in case I ever need it. And first of all, you can never go back and find it. And second, you really don't need it. So just buy the resolution you need and go from there and you'll be fine. But yeah.
I screwed up in the other direction once. I did buy a one once and I got it and I paid $5 and it was like 32 pixels by 32 pixels. And I didn't know that was the way it worked. So
yeah. I think we all do that the first time we buy stock photography. You look at the most expensive and the cheapest, and then you learn that the cheapest probably isn't what you need.
Isn't the one you want, but maybe go down up one in price.
Yeah, exactly. So that Allison is a great list. Thank you so much. I want to make sure that we mentioned you're on Twitter as Podfeet.
Correct.
How are you on Facebook?
My name, I think it's NosillaCast is points to me personally, but I friend everybody. I sort of did it wrong. I friend everybody in Facebook, but at first I made LinkedIn only people I knew. Then I realized I did that backwards, but it's too late now. You can friend me on Facebook. I don't care.
Okay.
And on Telegram Messenger, I'm NosillaCast. So that works out too.
Oh, you're on NosillaCast. You're not Podfeet. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah. Why did I do that? I didn't even think about that. I wonder if I can be two names. That would be fun. That was stupid. Why did I do NosillaCast? I wonder if I can change it. Before everybody's there, I better go check.
Yeah. And Google Plus. I know you mentioned that too.
Yeah, the best place to find when I'm playing around on there is podfeet.com/Google+. That's where you can find my community and a bunch of us fooling around and having a good time in there. Lots of fun.
Great. Hey, it's a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
My website is podfeet.com.
Yes, well, that went without saying. That went without saying. No, thank you so much. This has been a blast. I'm glad we got through it, and I didn't take that many hits.
Not too bad, Chuck. Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
All right, we'll do it again. Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is Mac Voices. We'll be back with more Power Tools sessions with some of our friends. I hope you'll be back too. Until the next time, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for links, show notes, to subscribe, to connect with Chuck on Twitter, Google+, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and the Mac Voices blog. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter, the Mac Voices Dispatch, to stay up to date on all the latest Mac Voices news from our front page or at macvoices.com/newsletter. Do more with your Apple tech by subscribing to the free Mac Voices magazine on Flipboard by visiting macvoices.com/magazine. Advertising and sponsorships handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.